It's almost here! For those of you who have been waiting to give your life for Super Earth, Helldivers 2 on Xbox is just a day away. In celebration of our other console brethren joining the fight for democracy, I thought now would be a great time to revisit the history of the Helldivers themselves and answer the question, just how many Helldivers are there, and how can Super Earth supply so many? Obey my cat! Hit the subscribe button. When the empire of your civilization expands deep into the galaxy, you're bound to make a few enemies. And enemies mean that you have to have a strong military presence, which is where the Super Earth Armed Forces, or SEAF, comes in. Surprisingly, military service doesn't seem to be compulsory in Super Earth society, but it is highly encouraged. The government gifts every child an R2124 Constitution rifle on their 16th birthday to try and foster a positive attitude towards serving amongst young people. While kids start working a regular job when they're 7 years old on Super Earth, you still aren't allowed to serve in the SEAF until you turn 18. There's a lot of roles to fill in the armed forces: engineers, medics, all the various positions in the Navy that keep even just our super destroyers armed and running. The possibilities are almost limitless, but all new recruits go through the same first steps of basic military training. From there, you're either given specialty training or deployed as a proud soldier in the Super Earth Armed Forces. These are the brave people on the front lines of defending liberty across the Milky Way galaxy. From densely populated cities to outskirt planets dotted with humble farms, we see the soldiers of the SEAF everywhere. Well, mostly the remains of them. The SEAF are deployed and stationed across humanity's empire. The defensive points of interest we can bring back online in missions, like the artillery and SAM sites, are all part of armed forces armaments typically found on planets to help defend human populations. And even the ICBMs we launch as one of our main mission goals is an SEAF facility typically run by soldiers and personnel that aren't Helldivers. But when the strength of the Super Earth Armed Forces soldiers is overwhelmed by the unending tide of the enemies of democracy, that's when the elite and last line of defense gets deployed. That's when Super Earth will send in the Helldivers. The Helldiver Corps is the elite branch of Super Earth's military. Soldiers that show extreme aptitude during basic training are routed to the Helldiver Corps for further intensive instructions, and those that survive the process proudly take on the title of Helldiver. As Helldivers, our title is a little less of a formal designation and more of just a basic job description. When a situation goes tits up on a planet, instead of deploying battalions of soldiers, tanks, and all of the support that would be needed to go with waging traditional war to wrestle control of a zone back from an enemy, elite special forces are dropped directly into the pits of hell to take care of the problem. Why pay for the manufacturing and moving of all those units, drop them in on a planet away from combat so they can march up and not get immediately overrun, when a small squad of 4 or 5 or 25 Helldivers can get the same job done? That's why we drop in a pod down into an active combat zone. We're basically the Space Marines of Super Earth.
Deep strikes.
When we fail a mission, there isn't another attempt. That set of missions isn't available to anyone else playing the game. It's do or die. And if we lose a major order, the ramifications are tremendous. We've lost training grounds, production facilities, hampered our ability to provide fuel and power for entire parts of the armed forces, all the way up to consequences such as losing entire planets. When we fail a major order in Helldivers 2, there is no do-over, no second chance, and part of the reason for that is because we as Helldivers are the literal last chance, the last line of defense, and the final opportunity to persevere in the face of the enemies of liberty. That's why we have such insanely powerful tools at our disposal through stratagems and are encouraged to use them. Even though our ordinances are unbelievably expensive, having 4 stimmed up ultra patriots out on the battlefield chucking orbital bombardments in every visible direction is still more cost effective than paying for the ordnance, manpower, ships, fuel, medics, supplies, hazard pay, all of the extra tiny details that go into waging what would be more traditional war. The hundreds of thousands of dollars a single 500-kilogram bomb costs is a paltry sum in comparison, especially when you can limit a maximum amount of uses for them, as well as a total number of specially trained soldiers that is reasonable to throw at the problem. You see, everything is a numbers game for Super Earth. There's a large number of corporations and mega corporations that work closely with the Federation government, and while we won't be getting into all the gritty details of that today, there is a limit where the cost of combat outweighs the benefits of holding a territory. At the end of the day, Super Earth's most expendable and overall least costly resource is none other than human beings themselves. So, exactly how many humans does the Federation of Super Earth have to expend? We have no idea. Alright, how about the armed forces? Also no clue. However, this is a question that we can start to ballpark the massive scale of because we do know the number of people in one branch of the SEAF, the Helldivers. Statistics are kept on the Galactic War. You can actually find them on the war map, and it includes the number on Helldivers killed in action. When I checked the number for this video, it was at 5,362,588,672 and counting. Check your war map. I'm sure it's gone up a considerable amount even in the few days since August 20th, 2025, which was the day I got that number from the statistics. Over 5 billion Helldivers lost so far in the Second Galactic War, really in just over 1 year of it. That's around half the population of Earth in our current day. So holy shit, if the Helldivers are the select elite special forces, the total number of enlisted in the SEAF must be unfathomable, and then even that is only a fraction of humanity's total because military service isn't compulsory. Or are there that many people? It's been a long-standing theory in the community that the Helldivers aren't natural-born people, they're actually clones, and there's some compelling evidence in-game that could support this theory. The first and most obvious is that there's only a total of 4 unique voices to choose from for Helldivers. This small pool could imply that they're the same Helldivers we play over and over again, with memories and personality intact. This could also explain why we deploy in the same armor when we lose a life and get called back in. It's effectively the same person wearing their preferred suit. On top of this, many people have pointed out the port in the back of all Helldiver helmets that almost seems like a jack port in the back of human heads from the sci-fi classic The Matrix. Through these ports, preserved personalities would be uploaded into new clones that are kept on ice and thawed out each time their predecessor dies. Now, in the early days of Helldivers 2, another compelling argument was that we didn't really ever see massive populations of humans, or even where a massive amount of people could have lived. Any settlements we saw were quite small and randomly interspersed in large swaths of nothing. Small farm settlements, definite signs of people, but nothing on the scope of billions. So where were the 5 billion plus Helldivers coming from? If you've played the game recently, you probably have seen that large megacities have been added to the other planets throughout the galaxy, and they aren't just contained to only Super Earth anymore. These are large cities with considerable populations, and we even get to see civilians running and screaming in terror to show that there are real people being threatened here. And there's probably significantly less after we're done saving them. But even if Arrowhead hadn't made that change to show us human populations on planets other than Super Earth itself, we still had the information that Helldivers are not actually clones. When it comes to trying to analyze lore in games, it can be tricky to figure out where to draw the line on if what we see in games has actual meaning and what exists because it needs to in order for the game to happen and work with the developer's vision. Sometimes, even if we can be pretty sure where that line is, it can be fun to chuck it out the window and take everything we experience in a game as canon lore in a what-if experiment, or in making crazy theories that probably aren't true but could be cool if they were. But it's always refreshing and helpful when a developer will just come out and tell you if something is correct or not, and that's exactly what Johan Pilsdit did with Helldivers 2. On Twitter, the head honcho of Helldivers himself stated, "Helldivers are real people with real families who are oh so proud of their baby joining the elite and invincible hero unit to do the right thing and fight for democracy. That they get into a freezer to be thawed is not disclosed, nor that their life expectancy is 2 minutes." So right there, from the creators of the IP themselves, that's an open and shut case that Helldivers aren't clones. And Arrowhead has done an excellent job of making the in-game and story information take us to that same conclusion. First of all, it's shown over and over that the Ministry of Defense has extensive recruitment campaigns for both the SEAF and the Helldivers division. The opening cinematic for Helldivers 2, which is also its main trailer before the game released, is an in-universe piece of recruitment propaganda not only meant to recruit us as an audience into buying the game, but to get more Helldiver boots on the ground because of the burgeoning new galactic war. When you have a clone army, you don't need to actively recruit because you instead spend your time and resources on growing more soldiers. The very beginning of Helldivers 2 also tells us that our characters are real people. One of the first things you see when starting the game for the first time is this screen containing top secret information about Helldiver readiness and production. In the single day that we as players undergo training, the facility on Mars intakes a total of 48,736 potential new Helldivers. The average age of those recruits is 18.7 years old, so by far most of these people are citizens who have just reached the age to be able to serve, and either have enlisted directly into the Helldivers, have been raised by the state after having been collected by the government as a baby from parents who didn't fill out their CO1 perms, or were selected from their time in the SAEF boot camp to become Helldivers. The average combat readiness of these recruits is 27%, but what we lack in skill we make up for in enthusiasm with a 97% rating for patriotism. We also learn that the expected survival rate of Helldivers, which for this batch of recruits is about 21%, and since this is a daily intake report that ends with a statement that expected projections for Helldiver production will be in quota, it seems that 21.3% is an expected survival rate for the training. So in combat training, almost 80% of recruits are expected to die. That makes me really concerned for what the projected survival rate for live combat is. So just remember, if your Helldiver survives more than 2 minutes in the battlefield, you're statistically better than average. If you successfully extract, you're in the top percentage of Helldivers that actually survived their engagement. And the next time you get blown up by a poorly placed bombardment, or blown to pieces with a Tesla gun, or thrown out the windshield of an FRV by a teammate, just remember that it's not their fault. It's a lack of training. But at the end of the day, their heart is in the right place, beating for sweet Lady Liberty. If you want to squad up with an awesome crew of fun, beginner-friendly Helldivers, be sure to drop by a stream or join our Discord community. Thanks so much for watching, and hopefully I'll see a bunch of new faces on the SES elected representative of family values. Thank you guys all so much for watching and all of your amazing support. Special shout out to my top tier supporters, Leah S., Andrew Brown, Cabus, Cameron, Rich, William McQueen, Ben, Darkslide, Commander Orf, Ginge Dread, Yellow 13, Ripped Limbo, L Zunix, Cthulhu 625, Mr. Schrodinger, Spazatron, Jason Clark, Satan Xarxes, The Blackstone Chapter Master, D-Bot, Razzle Dazzle, Southfang 78, Jay, Sly, Jack Haytree, Gabby, Sten Dorkin, Erica, Mr. Schrodinger, Hee Hee, Bishop Tadius, Mateo, Mr. Strunk, CT5334, Evan Berger, Lormock, Yin, Bad Cat, Darkslide, Bride's Biscuit, Kron Chaos, Daniel Gerber, The Thunder Guardian, Aubrey Bessie, Freedom Frank, Macrove, and Big Guy.